Legends sorta returns, and Vader hunts down and kills a lot of rebels with his TIE Advance, all on this week's episode of Star Wars Weekly. Hello fellow Star Wars fans and welcome to the channel. I love talking about Star Wars, that's what I do every week here. Everything that includes the comics, novels, TV series, and more. This week we have just two comics to talk about. The first one is Vader, Dark Visions, issue number 4, titled Hot Shot. So we start the story off with this young boy experiencing his father being killed, and it's kind of his fault in a way because he was supposed to defend his dad with a blaster and he freezes up. Well, we fast forward years later, the Empire is still ruling the galaxy, and this boy has grown up in age to the point where he wants to join the Rebel Alliance as a pilot for these X-Wings. It has turned out that, he's turned down because he's too young. He ends up stealing the X-Wing and kind of assimilates himself into the Rebel Alliance through that. So he goes on this mission with the squadron where they are trying to track the whereabouts of this location where they are building this Imperial technology. They manage to track this important Imperial person. They find out the location of this factory and they do a bombing run on this factory. It turns out that Darth Vader is there at the time accepting his new TIE Fighter Advance. He then goes into space and starts blowing these rebels up to Kingdom Come. This young character that was seen in the beginning of this issue ends up having the same problem he had in the first part of the issue, and he couldn't pull the trigger on Vader for some reason. Next thing you know, Vader lets him live, and Vader ends up tracking this kid back to the base, and the Empire comes in and destroys this rebel base. That's pretty much the gist of this issue. So things I liked about the issue are the character coming full circle in a way, in a bad way. Yeah, he freezes up and couldn't save his father, but I couldn't understand why he froze up and he couldn't shoot Darth Vader. Like, oh, he realizes it's Darth Vader, like, kill the guy, and he freezes up. In a way, in an odd kind of way, I can kind of see myself in the shoes of this character, because I've been in situations in life, and yeah, I wasn't able to impulsively react fast enough for some things, so I can kind of see where this kid is coming from, but in a life or death situation, yeah, it's kind of weird how he couldn't pull the trigger on Vader. Something else that sort of bothered me was the way the story was told in this kind of non-linear fashion, which I feel like wasn't necessary because it kind of threw me off about, like, okay, where are we in the story? Are we fast forward in the future before they go on to the bombing run? Or they, where are they at in the story? So that to me threw things off. I think it was pretty cool that Vader ended up using the same plan that was used against the Imperials. So he ended up tracking this X-Wing after they tracked the Imperials. So, Vader's cunning as always and using the same tricks against them. But the thing about Vader in this issue, and it's, Vader Dark Visions, I expected more out of Vader in this issue. I was very disappointed because in all the other issues, we had Vader looming in the background. Even if he wasn't a direct person of interest in the story, there was still lots of fear and stuff around the character where Vader just shows up, he blows up a couple X-Wings. That's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot of, oh, Vader's in the background, he's pulling the strings. Not any of that. So that disappointed me. Unfortunately, this is one of the weaker comics I've read in a long time for Star Wars. This overall series had a cool premise. It started off strong, but to me it's starting to kind of get lower and lower in quality as the issues come out. Hopefully we have the next issue that's going to be a little bit better in quality, because that will be the last issue for Vader Dark Visions. Next up for Star Wars canon, we have a monumental thing happening, and this is a legend story that is brand new to Star Wars. This isn't part of the canon, but it is Star Wars issue 108. This is the return of the original printing or numbering for Marvel Star Wars when it started back in 1977, I believe, and it ended up in 1986. Now, this story is called Forever Crimson, and this is a direct sequel to issue number 50 of that line. So it's a big deal because up until now, there's been no legend stories that have been released now that the canon has been taken over in 2014. The only other legend story that continues to this day is Star Wars The Old Republic, but that was already established before Lucasfilm did the whole canon shift. So anyway, this story is after the events of Return of the Jedi. We have Luke, Han, Leia. They're all there. The New Republic is now formed. the end of the Empire. We have other forces coming in to kind of take control. You have this character named Domina Tag, and she has the idea with these forever crimson stones that will cause plague all over the world. She tried it once, or the galaxy. She's going to try it again. So it's up to our heroes to kind of thwart this threat. But not only do we have our heroes, but we have these classic comic-only characters such as Jaxxon, Valence the Hunter, and Maze, and like I said, Domina Tag. And you have these other kind of enforcer enemies that I've never heard of before besides the Mandalorians, some different kind of characters. But yeah, it's a very much a legend story, and this is the epitome of a legend story. Like, people getting resurrected by these stones, like Valence the Hunter is thought dead, and they bring him back to life because he uses the stones, but then he burns into a sun. Some really crazy stuff that is the epitome of what I think of as legends or the expanded universe. I do like how they introduced new readers to this story because, hey, I've never read an original Marvel Star Wars comic, so it was great getting that kind of flashback feel of who Valence the Hunter was, what his backstory was, what is the significance of him. And I think it's very interesting that they put this out now because we are getting a Target Vader series which will focus on the character of Valence the Hunter. Now, if you guys read Star Wars Han Solo Imperial Cadet, that is our actual origin for Valence the Hunter. He's part of Han Solo's Imperial Cadet group, and he gets, wounded pretty badly in this battle, and his face gets scarred, and that's probably going to get those cybernetics. So we have the canon origin, and now we're seeing the origin for Valence the Hunter in the Legends format. And introducing us to these characters was a great way of just welcoming new readers like myself for this line. I do like how we are getting a retelling of what is happening after Return of the Jedi, especially now that we're pretty, deeply ingrained with the sequel trilogy and how things are unfolding with that. We have the upcoming Alphabet Squadron, we had the Aftermath trilogy that really get us a good look at what's happening after the fall of the Empire. Thing I will say about this is it's very wordy. This is, first off, a very thick book. I think there's 8 chapters in this thing. It's almost the size of a trade paperback. It's got some meat on its bones. There's lots of words, pretty decent artwork, but just be prepared for that. So yeah, this is a monumental thing for Star Wars, a milestone that's never been achieved before. This is probably the only time it's going to happen because it's the 80-year celebration of Marvel or something like that. So, they're celebrating, bringing this into it. As far as more Legends content, I'm kind of against it. I feel like Disney and Disney Lucasfilms should just stick to their guns. They did this for a reason, to get the Legends out there. They want to build their own continuity that makes sense without really crazy things happening. Mind you, there has been a couple crazy things that have happened in Star Wars that I haven't liked, but for the most part, they've done a pretty good job. I think if they threw in more Legends now, it would just confuse the readers more than ever, especially if it's brand new stories. But yeah, this was a nice little thing to come out to just celebrate the 80 years of Marvel. Moving over to my question of the week, this comes to me from James M., the Crazy Gamer Historian 1999 at Robin McCormick on Twitter. This guy always comes with great questions to the channel, so if you want to be like him, it's very simple. You just get your questions in to me through Twitter or through YouTube using hashtag Star Wars Weekly. So anyway, his question is, what would you like to see in a Solo 2 if it were to actually happen? So this question's very relatable at this time because we have this big push. Last week they had, bring back or make Solo 2 happen because it was the anniversary for Solo Star Wars Story. And I personally love Solo Star Wars Story. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, not just of the new ones, but of all of them combined. I just love the criminal underworld type of feel that we get, and that's what I would hope to see in Solo 2. We have this great thread that they started with Kira and with Darth Maul, and with Han going to this gangster, Jabba the Hutt, who probably would run into Boba Fett. So that would be my kind of concept, is having an infighting between the Crimson Dawn and the Hutts, because we haven't heard really of the Crimson Dawn so much after the events of Solo. Like, where have they been? Where are they in the criminal underworld? They supposedly were the head of many families of crime. So what was that like? And I could see this, down and dirty, drug out battle between these two big criminal empires, so to speak, and going tooth and nail fighting, Boba Fett versus Darth Maul, something that, I think many people would love to see as these two cult classic type characters that are villains that have these kind of like mysterious pasts and going head to head. They both have completely different combat styles. One guy has backpack with a jetpack. The other guy has a double blade lightsaber. So you couldn't be more further separated in combat ability. To see them go at it, maybe see another confrontation with Kira and Han. What would she react like now? What would Han react like seeing her after he left her? I think that would be a really good storyline to continue on for sure. So yeah, next week we have Age of Rebellion, Luke Skywalker, issue number 1 coming out. That's going to be an awesome story that's going to tell the event between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi of Luke possibly training, I think. So yeah, it was a pretty good week for Star Wars. So what do you guys think about this week's releases? Let's talk about them all in the comments section down below. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. I talk about Star Wars on a very frequent basis. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. You can go ahead and subscribe so you'll never miss another video. That is going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.